I'll be doing a brief demo of how you can use the Water Data Collaborative's Land Water Explorer app. The first thing I'll point out is when you first open the application, there's this blue splash screen. It has some information with a link to the Water Data Collaborative's website, as well as the accompanying story map. I really recommend that you check that out. I think any questions that you may have regarding the process or the data that we use to create this application, I tried very hard to address on that story map link. So hopefully that would take care of any questions you may have after using this. And then just a little more info as well as my email if you do have any questions. If you're using this app frequently, you can actually check this to not show the splash screen again, but for now I'll just hit OK. The first thing I want to do is mention that this web app has a lot of data in it, all of the catchments and the flow lines and the water bodies for the entire Chesapeake Bay watershed, as well as our 7-class land cover. So sometimes it does take a moment to load, but I promise if you're patient, it will come up in a moment. I'll point out a couple of navigation tips before we zoom in and look at the widgets. First, we have our legend list on the right. Then we have our layer list and our base map gallery, where you can change the base map if you find yourself distracted one way or another. So looking back at the legend, you'll see some things change as we zoom in. I'll just choose here by the eastern shore. You can see it does take a moment to load this scale. So at this zoom level, we have these orange diamonds show up, and those are the EPA Facility Registry Service Points, or the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit locations. And so if you want to click on any of those points, you can actually pull up more information about what's happening there. So for example, this is the Centerville National Bank of Maryland, and you can scroll down to the facility URL in this pop-up, and you can get more information about any EPA monitored discharge that's happening at a given location. It's important information if you're a water monitor to be aware of, kind of a baseline of what may be happening in the watershed you're looking at. So we'll just zoom in a little bit more here. Tuckahoe State Park area. You can see at this zoom level, we actually have our catchment show up in brown, as well as the stream NHD flow lines, these blue flow lines. So now what I'm going to do is just zoom in one more. And so we're going to be looking at this stream here, and we're going to try to find out how much land cover in this stream area is actually forested, how much is low vegetation, and how much is impervious, because we know areas with a lot of impervious land cover can start to experience degraded water quality. So I'll start by clicking on our catchment land cover quantifier. So this requires for input, first off, a choice between the catchment or the catchment and its upstream areas. So we'll choose catchment and upstream. This, of course, only applies if there is an upstream area. If you pick a headwaters, that's kind of irrelevant. And then for this next dropdown, we'll choose from the WDC app data and then catchments large scale. So then you have this option to draw the shapes to select feature. So we'll draw this shape in our catchment here. You just click, drag, and let go. You can see that catchment selected. But if you decide you want to move your catchment around, you can just hit that red button to clear, click drag, and it'll highlight another catchment. So at this point now we'll hit run, and it'll take a moment to run. And there we go. So now this is the catchment that we selected. You can see now it's shown up in the legend as the catchment with land cover information. And now if you click on it, you'll see we get a pop-up. And the first item we see is the NHD Plus ID. So that's the unique identifier for this catchment in the NHD Plus HR beta dataset. You'll see for this catchment and its upstream network of catchments, there's 0.34% water in the land cover, 26.26% tree canopy and shrubs, 71.6% low vegetation, and so on. The next thing I want to point out is if you're interested in getting this information outside of the web app, there's this option right here, this ellipses in the Output tab, where you can export to CSV or save to My Content if you are an ArcGIS Online user. Now I'll show you how we're going to get to using this next widget, the Upstream Visualizer. And the easiest way is just going from this pop-up, and if we click out of it, we can just click on it again. Going from the pop-up, if you click this ellipses, you can actually select Set as Input of Upstream Visualizer. So we'll go ahead and do that. You can see it says Use the resultant features, which means this one that's already highlighted on the map. Then we'll hit Run. This does take a moment to run, especially if it's a longer network, so please be patient with it as it goes through all of the data. And there you can see the upstream watershed of this catchment is now drawn on the map. Again, you have the options in this widget to export this information to a CSV or save it to your content if you're an ArcGIS web user. Now, if you'd like to run this process for another catchment or something further upstream or get a little more specific, all you have to do is hit this X to clear the output of that widget, and then click on this one again. Hit X, you can see it's still highlighted from that input, so we can clear that. Now you're able to run it on a different catchment. Hope this has been a helpful demonstration, and please feel free to get in touch if you have any questions, comments, or feedback. Thank you.